My name is Julia Carter, and I'm 27 years old. The day my boyfriend turned our relationship into content was a Thursday afternoon. Warm sunlight on Maple Street, the kind that makes the florist's window glow like honey. I remember because I was standing inside Sullivan's Flowers, holding a bouquet of yellow roses, Ethan's favorite. I wanted to surprise him after work. We'd been together for a year and a half, sharing an apartment, planning a future. At least that's what I thought we were doing. My phone buzzed once, then again. 5 notifications in less than 10 seconds. Texts from friends, coworkers, even my cousin. All the same message. Julia, have you seen Ethan's TikTok? I frowned, opened the app, and there it was, sitting at the top of my feed like a punch to the chest. Get ready with me to dump my girlfriend. The thumbnail showed Ethan in the mirror, hair styled, that half smile he practiced for every selfie. The background song, a breakup anthem that had been trending all week. The caption read, "Sometimes you just gotta put yourself first." He was lip syncing, laughing, doing transitions between outfits like it was a fashion vlog. The comment section was already flooded. King behavior. She probably deserved it. Can't wait for the story time. 500,000 views. Posted 47 minutes ago. My hand shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. The florist, an older woman named Ruth, saw my face and asked softly, "Honey, are you okay?" I didn't answer. I just stared at the screen, trying to understand what I was seeing. Ethan wasn't the impulsive type. He was the kind who planned captions, who practiced smiles in the reflection of the microwave. This wasn't a joke. It was a performance. And apparently, I was the unwitting supporting actress. I left the flowers on the counter, mumbled something about forgetting my wallet, and walked out. My heart pounded against my ribs so loud it felt like applause. For him, not me. The drive home felt endless. Each red light glowed like a spotlight. I kept thinking, he was supposed to be at work. Instead, he'd been filming his own liberation. When I got to our apartment, his jacket was gone, his favorite sneakers missing from the rack. The scent of his cologne still lingered, though, a bitter aftertaste in the air. I sat on the couch, phone trembling in my hands, scrolling through the comments again. There it was. One that made my stomach twist. Dumping her tonight? Manifesting courage for you, bro. Tonight. So this wasn't something he'd already done. He was planning it. Publicly. In advance. I don't remember standing up, but suddenly I was in the kitchen, staring at the photos on the fridge. Us at the lake last summer, smiling, drenched in sunlight. The caption I'd written when I posted that picture came back to me. Love feels like home. I whispered, "Home, huh?" and almost laughed. Then I did something I didn't plan, didn't even think about. I opened TikTok, hit record. The camera opened on my face. Tear-streaked, mascara smudged, but steady. "So," I began, voice trembling but controlled. "I just saw my boyfriend's video, the one where he says he's dumping me tonight. I was actually buying him flowers when I found out." I turned the camera toward the coffee table where the vase sat empty. "Ethan, you don't have to worry about dumping me anymore. I'm doing it first. Not because of your video, but because you thought our love was something to edit, caption, and monetize. I deserve better than to be someone's content." I stopped recording, watched the 30-second clip play back once. No yelling, no drama, just calm honesty. Then I posted it. And then I started packing. 2 hours later, my video had 300,000 views. By the time I'd filled 2 suitcases, it was over 1 million. At 9:46 p.m., I heard keys in the door. Ethan stepped in, laughing, phone pressed to his ear. Probably talking to his best friend, celebrating his freedom. Then he saw the half-empty closet, the boxes by the door, and me, sitting on the floor with folded clothes in my lap. He froze. "What the hell is this?" I didn't look up. "Packing." "For what?" "For my dignity." He blinked, genuinely confused. "You saw the video." "Yes." He sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Julia, it was just a joke. For engagement. You know how TikTok works." I finally met his eyes. 3 million people don't think it's a joke. "It's trending," he said quietly, almost proud. "Delete it." "What?" "Delete it, Ethan. If it's just for engagement, delete it." He hesitated, glanced at his phone. I could see the reflection of numbers climbing. Likes, followers, validation. "I can't just delete it," he muttered. "It's already everywhere." And there it was, the truth. "You care more about views than me," I said softly. That's all I needed to know. He reached for my arm. "You can't just leave over a stupid video." "Adults don't post breakup trailers, Ethan." I pulled away. He followed me down the stairs as I dragged my suitcase. Where are you even going? Colleen's couch, I said without turning back. She has wine and silence, both things you don't understand. This is insane, he shouted. You're throwing away everything. No, I said, opening my car door. You threw it away when you hit post. He stood there under the yellow streetlight, phone still in his hand, probably recording his next apology video. I drove off before he could hit record. At Colleen's apartment, she opened the door before I even knocked. Her eyes widened at the sight of my luggage. Oh my God, Jules, what happened? I handed her my phone. She watched in silence. Her jaw tightened. He filmed this? Yep. She poured me a glass of wine, no words needed. The clock ticked past midnight. My phone buzzed. Notification after notification. My video was trending higher than his. Comments flooded in. Some angry for me, some calling me dramatic, some just watching like it was a reality show. I turned the phone face down. For the first time all night, I let myself cry. Quiet, exhausted tears that burned more from betrayal than heartbreak. Because that's what it felt like. Not the end of love, the end of privacy. By morning, I'd be someone's content, too. Not by choice, but because once a story hits the internet, it stops belonging to you. Still, I'd made my choice. He made content, I made closure. But deep down, I could already feel it. The internet wasn't done with either of us. I didn't sleep much that night. Colleen set up the couch with fresh sheets and a lumpy pillow she apologized for twice. We ordered takeout, but I barely tasted anything. My phone sat face down on the coffee table, buzzing every few seconds like it had a heartbeat of its own. Around 11, Colleen picked it up. Do you want me to mute notifications? Just check, I sighed. Tell me if the world's on fire. She opened the screen, eyes widening. Julia, your video is at 1.2 million views. My stomach dropped. What about his? She scrolled. 2 point something. But the comments, she shook her head. They're split. People are starting to ask why he thought it was funny in the first place. I didn't know whether to feel satisfaction or nausea. With a voice that didn't feel like mine, I said, turn it off. She did. But a few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Not just from TikTok, but texts. From my coworker, Jenna. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Call me if you need anything. From my cousin. Girl, you handled that with so much grace. Proud of you. Also, he's a clown. From an unknown number. You're overreacting. It was clearly a joke. People like you ruin social media. I laughed bitterly. People like me. The unpaid extra in my own breakup trailer. Sometime after midnight, exhaustion finally dragged me under. The next morning, I woke up with a stiff neck and puffy eyes, sunlight poking through the blinds. Colleen was already up, murmuring on the phone in the kitchen. When she saw me, she put a finger to her lips and whispered, "It's Ethan." I motioned for her to put it on speaker. His voice came through, tight and frantic. "Is Julia there?" Colleen spoke with that polite annoyance only best friends can manage. "Maybe. Why?" "Her video is ruining my life," he snapped. "She needs to take it down." My chest tightened. Colleen raised an eyebrow. "You mean the video where she calmly says she's not okay with being dumped for views? That video?" "She's making me look like a monster," he said. "Brands are already reaching out, asking if I'm stable." This was supposed to be lighthearted content. I took the phone from her. "Ethan." Silence. Then a sharp breath. "Julia, you had no right." "You started it," I said. My voice sounded calm, almost detached. "You're the one who posted a 'get ready with me to dump my girlfriend' while I was out doing something kind for you." "That video was about me taking control of my life," he argued. "And now people are painting me as some villain. You're turning everyone against me." "You turned a private breakup into a public spectacle," I replied. "If you can't control the narrative, that's not my fault." He lowered his voice. "Take it down, Jules. I'm serious. I've got things lined up. This is my chance to really grow my platform." There it was again. That word. Platform. "You're worried about your platform," I said slowly. "And I'm just trying to remember how to breathe. We're not the same." He muttered something under his breath. Then, "Fine. You want to play this game? Let's play." The line went dead. Colleen stared at me. "What does that mean?" "I don't know," I said, but my skin prickled like a storm was rolling in. By day 3, it was clear what he meant. Ethan had pivoted. His content was no longer, "get ready with me to dump my girlfriend." Now it was healing after emotional manipulation and setting boundaries with a controlling partner. Clips with text overlays. Voiceovers about escaping toxicity. And every story had the same invisible villain, me. He never used my name. probably on legal advice from someone slightly smarter than him. But anyone who'd seen the original videos knew. Colleen sat next to me on the couch, scrolling through his page. "He's gained like 100,000 followers in 3 days," she muttered. "Look at this one." She turned the screen toward me. Ethan, sitting on our old couch, fake crying into the camera. Text on screen. "When your girlfriend humiliates you in front of millions after you finally find the courage to walk away." I felt like I'd been dropped in cold water. "Humiliates him," I whispered. The comments were viciously polarized. "You're so strong for leaving." "She sounds crazy." "Something about this doesn't add up." "Wait, didn't he post the first video?" It wasn't just TikTok. Screenshots were on Twitter, reaction videos on YouTube, threads dissecting the timeline like it was a crime scene. I tried not to look, but the algorithm didn't care what I wanted. Every app pushed his face at me like an unavoidable ad. Meanwhile, I went to work, answered emails, pretended the fluorescent lights didn't suddenly feel like interrogation lamps. Coworkers whispered in the break room. A few were kind, a few were entertained. That week, I watched my own life become a season of television, and I'd never signed the contract. On day 5, my friend Marcus sent me a screenshot from Instagram. "Marcus, you seeing this?" It was Ethan at a rooftop influencer event. Fairy lights strung overhead, city glittering behind him. He wore designer sneakers I knew he couldn't afford on his salary alone. Caption, funded by my haters. Sponsored tags everywhere. Free clothes, free coffee, free dinners. Every brand post used the same narrative. The brave man who walked away from his toxic girlfriend and turned pain into power. Colleen paced the living room. I hate him. I actually, viscerally hate him. I sat on the couch, staring at the screenshot. "He turned our breakup into a business model," I murmured. "He's monetizing my humiliation." My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "Hey, Julia, this is Natalie. We need to talk about Ethan. He's planning something, and I thought you should know." I frowned. The name clicked. Natalie, the friend he'd claimed to be at game night with the night he filmed the first video. I typed back. "What's going on?" 3 dots pulsed. Vanished. Came back. "He's working with a production company. They want to do a documentary series about you guys. He already signed contracts." My mouth went dry. "A documentary about what?" I wrote. "Me crying on a couch." "About escaping a controlling relationship," she replied. "That's the angle. I've seen some of the footage. Julia, he's lying. A lot." Colleen leaned over my shoulder, reading. "Ask her how bad." I did. Natalie's reply came in 3 messages, each worse than the last. "He says you isolated him from his friends. He says you threatened him when he tried to leave. He says you emotionally abused him and used money to control him." I laughed in shock, a sharp, humorless sound. "We split everything 50-50, I muttered. "I literally Venmo'd him for his half of the groceries every week." Colleen clenched her fists. "He's not just framing you as the bad guy. He's framing you as dangerous. That's not just messy. That's defamatory." My chest tightened. "Why are you telling me this, Natalie?" I typed. There was a long pause. "Because I was there when he filmed the first video," she finally wrote. "The get ready to dump my girlfriend one." "It was my idea originally," she added. "I told him it would be funny. Good for engagement. I don't know what I thought. That you'd be in on it. That he'd tell you. But now he's acting like you were this monster he had to escape from, and I can't watch him destroy your reputation for money." I stared at the words until they blurred. "He's going to make a lot of money off this," Natalie continued. "The doc deal is $75,000 plus back end if it does well. They're hyping it as raw, vulnerable content about male survivors of emotional abuse." I swallowed, throat tight. "What do I do?" Her answer came fast, urgent. "Get a lawyer, fast." That night, I sat at Colleen's tiny kitchen table with a mug of tea going cold in my hands while she dialed a familiar number. "Uncle Richard," she said when he picked up. "It's Colleen. I'm here with Julia. We need your help." My uncle had always been the quiet kind of intimidating, the man who read contracts for fun. When Colleen handed me the phone, his voice was calm. "Start from the beginning," he said. So I did. I told him about the TikTok, the breakup trailer, my response video, the influencer pivot, the rooftop event, Natalie's messages, the documentary. Saying it all out loud made it sound even more surreal. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. "They can't use your likeness without your permission," he said. "Not legally. Not in a documentary that revolves around your face and your name, even if they don't bleep it. And if he's making demonstrably false claims about you being abusive, that's defamation, especially if there's financial gain involved. So what can we do? I asked, heart pounding. We start with a cease and desist, he replied, one to him and one to the production company. We'll demand they stop using your image, your name, and any false narratives about you. If they proceed, we sue. The word sue felt heavy, legal, final. I don't want a war, I said softly. I just want my life back. Sometimes, he answered, the only way to get your life back is to remind people you know how to fight for it. I closed my eyes, saw Ethan's face in my mind, laughing into the camera, soaking in praise from strangers who knew nothing about him. Okay, I whispered, do it. Good, Uncle Richard said. Then here's what happens next. As he walked me through the steps, letters, signatures, timelines, a strange calm spread through me. For the first time since this started, I wasn't just reacting. I was pushing back. Ethan had taken my heartbreak and turned it into his career. He was about to learn that some stories come with a legal department. 3 days later, the cease and desist letters went out. One to Ethan, one to the production company. I didn't expect a response so quickly, but by that evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. When I played it back, his voice filled the room, strained, angry, and trembling at the edges. You're seriously suing me, Julia? Over what? I didn't lie. I just told my story. You can't silence me. Then, as if he couldn't help himself, he added, and for what it's worth, the documentary deal's already signed. You can't stop it. Click. I stared at the phone for a long time before whispering, watch me. By the next morning, Uncle Richard called with updates. The production company's legal team reached out, he said. They were polite, nervous even. They know they can't release the series without your consent. They already paid him, didn't they? I asked. $75,000, he confirmed. But they're desperate. They've filmed his parts. Without your side, they can't air it without risking a lawsuit. I'd say you have leverage. Leverage. The word felt foreign and powerful. That night, Ethan tried again. He called from Natalie's phone this time, probably forgetting I'd blocked his number. I answered, mostly out of morbid curiosity. Why are you doing this? He demanded, voice cracking. You're ruining everything. I leaned against the counter, calm. You mean your monetized redemption arc? You're twisting things, he snapped. I didn't say you were abusive. You said I was controlling. You implied I isolated you. You told the world you were escaping me. It's how I felt, he said weakly. Feelings aren't facts, I replied, and facts are what hold up in court. He went quiet, then, almost pleading, Julia, you don't have to make this ugly. I smiled to myself. Ethan, you made it public. I'm just making it legal. Click. 2 days later, Richard called again. They're offering a settlement, he said. $95,000, plus script approval. You'll get to review any segment that mentions you. If you flag a false claim, they cut it, or face another lawsuit. I blinked. They're paying me to not sue them? They're paying you for your likeness, he corrected, and your silence. The irony hit me hard. I'd been accused of silencing someone, and now I was literally being paid to stay quiet. I almost laughed. Fine, send the papers. When the contract came through, Richard and I combed through every line. No loopholes, no hidden traps. I signed it, wired signature and all, then closed my laptop. The deposit hit 2 days later, $95,000. Clean, legal, mine. Colleen poured champagne. To poetic justice, she said, clinking glasses. To peace with benefits, I answered. Ethan found out soon after. Of course he did. The production company had to tell him they'd resolve the release issue with the other party. He showed up at Colleen's apartment that night. It was 10:12 p.m. I remember because I was folding laundry and heard a knock like someone was trying to break the door down. Colleen looked through the peephole, muttered, "Oh, hell no," and motioned me over. Ethan stood there, jaw tight, rain in his hair, eyes wild. Colleen opened the door just an inch. She doesn't want to see you. He shoved the door wider, voice sharp. She took my money. I stepped into view. Your what? The documentary deal, he said, pointing at me. That was supposed to be mine. You stole it. I laughed softly. Stole? Ethan, it was about both of us. They needed my consent. That consent costs money. You're unbelievable, he spat. You ruined my career. You ruined your reputation, I corrected. I just sent an invoice. He stepped closer, but Colleen, who was 5'3" but terrifying when angry, blocked him. Back up. You don't get to barge in here. His face twisted with frustration. You're going to regret this, Julia. Everyone's going to know what kind of person you really are. They already do, I said quietly. I am the woman who respected herself enough to walk away from someone who thought views mattered more than love. For a moment, he just stared at me, something flickering behind his eyes. Shame, maybe, or just calculation. Then he turned and stormed off down the hall. Colleen locked the door and leaned her back against it, exhaling. If this were a movie, she said, that's where the villain swears revenge. I gave a small smile. Good thing this is real life. The next morning, my phone rang again. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Julia, a cool, older voice said. This is Patricia Miller, Ethan's mother. Of course it was. Good morning, I said cautiously. You need to give Ethan that money, she said, skipping pleasantries. It was meant for his documentary. He needs it to move forward. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Hi, Patricia. Nice to hear from you, too. Don't be flippant, she snapped. He's struggling. He had plans. That money was supposed to help him move out of that awful apartment. I took a slow breath. With all due respect, your son made a documentary about lying to millions of people. The least he can do is pay rent himself. He said you manipulated him, she pressed. That you turned people against him. He manipulated the truth for attention, I interrupted. If you're calling to defend that, we have nothing to talk about. A pause, then a cold hiss. You'll regret this, Julia. Men don't forget women who humiliate them. I'm counting on that, I said. Maybe next time he'll think before pressing record. I hung up before she could answer. Colleen walked in, eyebrows raised. Was that her? Yep, I said, taking a sip of my coffee. Apparently I've cursed her family name. Add it to your resume, she joked. A week later, the production company emailed me a preview cut. The documentary was called Healing from Control, The Courage to Leave. Even the title made me want to throw my laptop. But as I watched, I realized Richard's edits had done their job. Every one of Ethan's exaggerated claims was undercut by footage, timestamps, or inconsistencies. The editors clearly leaned toward truth once lawyers got involved. My segment was minimal. A blurred photo, a mention that the ex declined to participate. But the rest? It was uncomfortable to watch. Ethan pacing, fake crying, pausing for dramatic effect before saying things like, she'd ask me where I was going and I'd feel trapped. Cut to his own footage of him filming TikToks in the apartment at 3 a.m. The internet was going to eat it alive. When the final credits rolled, I closed the laptop and sat in silence. Colleen watched me. You okay? I thought I'd feel satisfied, I said, but mostly I just feel done. You don't need revenge, she said softly. You already have peace. I smiled faintly. Peace with paperwork. That night, I transferred part of the settlement into my savings, used another chunk to pay off my student loans, $31,000 gone with one click. I set aside $40,000 for a down payment on a condo. Then I opened a blank document and typed the words, Carter Designs, Interiors that feel like closure. Because if Ethan could turn heartbreak into content, I could turn mine into something that lasted. 6 weeks later, the documentary aired. I didn't plan to watch it, but curiosity has a way of finding you, especially when your face is all over social media thumbnails. The Truth About My Ex, full documentary, was trending on YouTube, 3.2 million views in 24 hours. So one night, wine glass in hand, I sat on my new couch, my couch in my own condo, and hit play. The title sequence was dramatic, almost absurd. Slow music, dim lighting, Ethan staring pensively out a window like he'd just survived a war. When you finally escape someone who made you doubt your worth, the narration made me snort into my wine. But as it went on, I realized something. It wasn't the hit piece he'd hoped for. My uncle's legal edits had worked better than expected. The producers had added disclaimers, cut out exaggerations, and even spliced in clips of his original "Get ready with me to dump my girlfriend" video. The contrast was brutal. He looked ridiculous, perfectly coiffed, rehearsed, proud, right before breaking down in later footage, trying to cry on command. The top comment said it all. I can't believe this guy tried to play victim after publicly humiliating her. She handled this better than most people would. The editing team deserves an Emmy for passive-aggressive justice. Ethan's healing hero narrative had officially collapsed. His follower count stalled within days. Brand deals quietly disappeared. The once daily motivational videos slowed, then stopped. Meanwhile, mine, the calm 30-second clip that started everything, crossed 10 million views. I didn't repost it, didn't monetize it. I just let it exist. Because for the first time in months, I didn't need to say anything. Life got quieter after that. I paid off my student loans. $31,000. Gone. Just like that. I put $40,000 toward my condo. A small, sunlit place with white walls, big windows, and no memories that weren't mine. I painted one wall sage green, bought furniture I actually liked instead of whatever matched Ethan's neutral aesthetic. Hung up art I made myself. Colleen came over one afternoon with coffee and said, "This place feels like you." I smiled. That's the point. I started freelancing full-time, rebranding my design business as Carter Home Studio. Projects trickled in, then turned steady. I was working on my own terms, designing spaces that felt calm, spaces that felt like recovery. Some nights, I'd sit on the balcony and listen to the city hum below. I'd think about how strange it was that something so humiliating had somehow led me here. Not happy exactly, just free. 2 months later, I started seeing someone. His name was Michael, a physical therapist I met at a friend's birthday dinner. He didn't recognize me at first, which was refreshing. Halfway through the night, when someone mentioned the documentary, I saw realization flicker in his eyes, but he didn't ask. He waited until our second date. We were sitting at a small Italian restaurant, the kind with flickering candles and handwritten menus. Between bites of pasta, he said casually, "So, I looked you up." I winced. "And?" He grinned. "You handled yourself like a pro. Honestly, I've seen less maturity in actual therapists' offices." I laughed, relieved. "So you're not worried I'll turn you into content?" He leaned back. "Only if I deserve it." That made me laugh harder than I had in months. We took things slow. No posts, no couple photos, no soft launches, just dinners, walks, quiet mornings. Sometimes I'd wake up to find him making coffee in my kitchen, barefoot, humming off key, and think, this is what peace looks like. Then, one Saturday morning in late September, it happened. I was at the grocery store, reaching for a box of cereal, when another hand brushed mine. "Julia." I looked up Ethan. He looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but in presence. The usual confident smirk was gone, replaced by uncertainty. He wore a faded hoodie, dark circles under his eyes. "Hey," he said quietly. "Hey." We both stood there awkwardly. Boxes of cereal like props in a scene neither of us rehearsed. "You look good," he said after a pause. "Thanks," I replied. "You too." He hesitated. "I'm sorry for what it's worth." I studied him. He actually looked sincere this time. No camera, no followers, just a guy who'd finally run out of audiences. "I got caught up in the attention," he said. "It felt good to be seen, but I hurt you, and I'm sorry." For a moment, I saw flashes of who we used to be. Laughing on that old couch, cooking dinner, dancing in the kitchen, before it all turned into content. "I appreciate that," I said. He nodded. "Are you seeing someone?" "Yeah," I said simply. He gave a small smile. "Good. You deserve someone who doesn't," he trailed off, searching for words, "who doesn't turn your life into views." I almost laughed. "You didn't completely suck, Ethan. You just made a really bad choice." "Worst one of my life," he admitted. We stood there for another moment, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. Then he picked up his cereal, gave a faint wave, and walked away. No phones, no audience, no performance. Just two people who used to love each other, finally untangled. That night I texted Michael. "Ran into my ex. It was fine. Weird, but fine." He replied a minute later. "Want to come over? Making tacos." I smiled. "On my way." When I arrived, he was chopping cilantro, music low, kitchen warm. He poured me a glass of wine without asking, kissed my forehead, and said, "No cameras here, promise." We ate, laughed, watched a movie, and didn't talk about Ethan. Later that night, lying in bed, I thought about those yellow roses I never bought, about Ruth, the florist, probably wondering what happened to the girl who'd left flowers on the counter and walked out with heartbreak in her eyes. I wondered if someone else ever bought them, if they ended up in someone else's vase, part of another story entirely. Maybe that's what life is, passing moments, recycled endings, small mercies we don't see until later. Ethan chose followers. I chose peace. And peace, it turns out, doesn't trend, but it lasts.